tap into your infinite inner knowledge for the purpose of expressing yourself more fully, and you are not quite sure how to go about it, click on the link below and book a session with myself and my spiritual team, and we would be honored to help you on your journey. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time watching or being here, thank you so much for being here. I hope you stay. I hope you find whatever comes through me as a channel helpful. That is my intent. That is my intention, to give you information or bring forward information that will ultimately guide you to the greatness of who you are. And I mean, you already are that greatness. I channel knowledge and higher wisdom from higher vibrating beings, higher collective consciousnesses. And it is basically an exchange of energy between them, you, and I. So many times this energy will reverberate in your body, in your cells, in your bones. In other words, you will feel it. It goes directly into your emotional body. And there will be times where some of the information may trigger you. And if that's the case, just notice the triggers, because underneath a trigger, there is a story. And when I channel higher vibrational frequency, it either coincides with the aspect of us that is higher vibrating, or it is hitting the aspects of ourselves that are lower vibrating, or the shadows. So just pay attention to how your body feels when you hear what is coming through. And that is often a very good way to gauge how your ego responds to this information. Of course, at no point am I asking you to accept what I say. At any point or at any time, what I speak of is a perspective, and you do not have to agree with this perspective. You certainly don't have to accept this perspective. Nonetheless, we are all trying to live our life from a higher perspective. Why? Because higher perspective gives us more choices we didn't know previously that we had. And in majority of the people that I work with and have worked with in the last 20 years in therapeutic setting and also personally, majority of people, if not everyone, would prefer to have more choices than less choices. And that's because the idea of having choices also is tied to the idea of freedom. When we are free to choose, we live life more freely, less in limited ways. So my job, if you will, my intention is to always help you see a different and a higher perspective. Ultimately, helping you free yourself from your own internal limited prison. And we all live in these inner prisons on some level at some point of our lives. And since our consciousness as humanity, as a collective, is changing, and what I mean by changing, we are moving from a certain level of awareness to a higher level of awareness. And of course, not everybody is doing that, at least not consciously or willingly. But at the end of the day, life is always evolving, and this is the trend, if you will. the trend is that we are all moving towards higher consciousness via absorbing higher frequency, higher vibration. So if you are listening to this type of channel, you probably already know that we are all frequency. Everything is connected energetically. We are all energy at the end of the day. There is no beginning, there is no end. You can't get rid of energy, you can only transform it. So really my job, if you will, is to help you transform yourself from inside out towards a greater version of yourself. And you already are that greater version of yourself. It is just that that version of you is hidden or blocked, if you will, from your view. And it is blocked from this view by the limiting concepts we hold about ourselves, about our world, about our experiences, etc., etc. So my job is to help you gain a greater understanding of who you are. The more you begin to expand your awareness, the higher you vibrate. The higher you vibrate, the closer you get to what is called Source. Some call it God. And Source is pure consciousness itself, and its highest vibrational expression is that of unconditional love. So one might say that in order to reach higher awareness and higher consciousness and higher vibrational states, it stands to logic that we need to work with unconditional love. What does that mean? Well, if you have ever had the pleasure to experience unconditional love, and I would say a lot, if not majority, of love that we experience in a human form is conditional when it comes from a human being. The closer to experience more unconditional love, I would say you'd get it from even mothers and fathers. Even though we give our love unconditionally, there's always some conditions because we're limited in our perception of who we are. We're limited. But anyway, if you've ever had the pleasure of experiencing unconditional love, you know what it feels like. If you've ever experienced higher states of consciousness through meditation, through some out of the ordinary experiences, you will likely know that it's the type of love that I'm talking about is one that's beyond our human understanding. And it goes beyond the sexual love, the intimacy love. It goes beyond, the human kind of love. They're showing me that often when you look into your pet and his or her eyes, if you have a good relationship with your pet, which is one that is not based on fear, you will often see that unconditional love in your pet's eyes. It is something that's hard to describe. So, long story short, I'm here to help you resolve inner conflicts within yourself so that you can experience more of this love for yourself towards yourself. And the more you can experience that for yourself, the more you can share it with others. In other words, if you don't know how to love yourself, it will be difficult for you to truly love somebody else. And it will also be more difficult for you to experience love from somebody else towards yourself because you will not know what to do with it. You will have challenges with accepting it. And you probably have seen, maybe in yourself or in other people, that many people block themselves from experiencing love for various reasons. So my job, if you will, is to help you experience more of that love, first and foremost for yourself. And to experience love for yourself is the same as to experience unconditional acceptance of who you are. Now, some of you may say, well, how can I accept part of me that I don't like? And we all have these parts. Not always easy, but it's absolutely possible. And here's what happens. When you begin to experience acceptance of the aspects of you that you don't like, through understanding, through compassion, through awareness, higher awareness, these aspects of you that you don't like begin to shift, or your relationship with it begins to shift, where you go from not liking a part of you to appreciating that part of you. And it all comes from higher understanding, or from greater understanding. I often talk about shadows. Working with the shadow self is one of the things that I absolutely love to do. I just love working with shadow self. And in my experience of doing this type of work over 2 decades, it has become evident to me that it is one of the most potent ways to transform yourself from inside out, through sheer acceptance of our ego self, of our shadow self, which is part of our ego. I talked about this in one of the earlier videos, which you can see down below. It's about shadows, transforming your life by accepting your shadows. So if you're interested in that, just listen to that video and just see what you get. So I wanted kind of to blur that out, because I feel like it's an important theme that we are going through right now. Acceptance on so many levels. And it is a lot more difficult to accept things, people, situations that we don't like. It is a lot easier to accept situations and people that we have appreciation for. So what I want to say to you is, by examining your thoughts, the thoughts you have about yourself, you will be able to gauge how much appreciation you have for yourself, towards yourself, or acceptance towards yourself. And you will also be able to see how you are at odds with yourself, or in a state of non-acceptance. And if we live in a state of non-acceptance of ourselves, we often live life through our shadow. And shadow is an aspect of ourselves, and we have many shadows. And they're not good and bad, they just are. It's an experience. The shadow aspects of ourselves are the parts of us that we deem as bad, unworthy, insignificant, not enough, inferior, and all the other limiting ways that we label ourselves. So I want to kind of to dangle that carrot, because I feel like, well, I'm being asked to share this information for the purpose of reminding everyone that we are in a state of tremendous shift. And again, if you're watching this type of material, you already know that we are going through global shift. Planet Earth is shifting her frequency. And as a result of that, we being part of planet Earth are also going through shifting of frequency. And shift in frequency can often create a lot of chaos. And there is no shortage of chaos right now in the world. And it almost feels like it's been amplified. But chaos has its place in this huge equation, because it tends to bring out aspects of ourselves that need to be healed. So, in many ways, it is easier to spot or recognize the aspects of ourselves that need to be transformed, healed, or alchemized, which is another word for inner transformation, because it is more visible, it's more in front of us, more in front of your face. And there's few ways that we deal with chaos. We run away from it. We pretend it's not there, which is called denial, or we face it. Facing it often means looking at the truth of something that is versus looking at it. How do I say this? Looking at the truth of something that is versus pretending that it's not there. So some of you, perhaps even many of you, will be or are dealing with some sort of chaos in your life. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but something that creates a turmoil within you, okay? Which will effectively stir up feelings of perhaps not feeling safe and other fear-based emotions. And as we experience this chaos, which more often than not is rooted in inner conflict, it is a perfect time for us to look in the mirror, if you will, to self-reflect in order to realize what this inner conflict is. And then decide to either do something about it, to transform inner conflict into something much more pleasurable, or to leave it as is, which means to continue or perpetuate this inner conflict, which ultimately ends up expressing itself on the outside. Again, if you're watching this type of material, you're probably already know that what's within is what's without. It's one of the Hermetic principles. As below, so above, as above, so below. Which simply means what is happening in the world, our world inside, in our inner world, will effectively be expressed in our outside world. Okay? I think that's a very common knowledge, maybe not to certainly not to everybody, but if you're watching this type of channel, you probably have some idea about this. I'm being again asked to throw in the word Hermeticism, Hermetic principles, which is very much tied to Thoth, the Egyptian god, who was the scribe. He had many functions, a very wise being. And the 7 Hermetic principles pretty much outline how the universe works. So if you are interested to find out more about how the universe works and how that can help you realize more of your full potential, or more of your potential more fully, then look into the Hermetic laws, Hermetic principles, Hermeticism, Hermetica. There's lots of free material on YouTube, full audiobooks, and just see how that connects with you. I'm saying this for somebody, otherwise I wouldn't be asked to say this. So I'm just spreading the knowledge. There are many things I want to talk about today, and I feel like, where do I even begin? So I'm just going to kind of go with the flow. And I have a feeling this will be a one big message for collective. I'll see if there is time for individual messages, but I feel that whatever comes through, even if it's just one big message, bits and pieces of it, maybe even most of it, maybe even everything, will resonate with you on some level, if not now, then down the road. The first thing I want to talk about is wins, big wins. They showed me the idea of being a winner. And being a winner in the game of life, right? And if you imagine being in a game and then you win, there's a certain feeling that comes over you when you win. So I was seeing this as a soccer player who scored a goal, and he, in my image, it was a he had that feeling, that fire that was undeniable. And when I asked why I was shown this, what came next was the idea of a winning attitude. Now, we already know that if we have a winning attitude, which is a perception, how we perceive things, how we perceive things, it helps in the process of creation. If we have a negative attitude or a loser attitude, then that's going to bring our vibration down, and it's going to disqualify us, if you will, from winning. And that's a metaphor. So big win attitude either accelerates or slows down the process towards your end goal or your intention. So that's just a reminder. Everything is based on how we perceive things, our attitudes, which will effectively dictate our level of vibration. So if you are someone who tends to be more negative versus positive, or the glass half empty versus glass half full, then naturally speaking, you will experience life from a more lackful or negative perspective, right? And the opposite is true. If your attitude is life is half glass full versus half glass empty, you will experience life from a more abundant attitude, which is going to feel very differently. And here's what came through. What you think about participates in the process of creation. Creation is merely the attention or focus towards which you project your own energy. If the energy you project towards it, your creation, is lack, then you participate in your creation from lack perspective. And since your perspective gives color or meaning to your experience, your attitude will either greatly enhance or limit the process towards your goal. In other words, if you have a winning attitude, if you have a positive attitude, that is going to greatly enhance your vibration, which is also frequency. And the higher you vibrate, the more you will attract corresponding frequency in a 3D form. Okay, so if you are if your goal is to experience greater abundance, for example, and I'm choosing that word because everybody understands the idea of abundance, then you have to have a winning attitude towards the idea of abundance, towards experiencing abundance. On the other hand, if you're wanting to experience more abundance, but your attitude is, I'm never going to get it, then I'm never going to get it is your expectation around abundance, which means what you expect is what you will create. And that's because you will rarely put energy towards something you don't believe in. Think about it. You will rarely put energy towards something you don't believe in. So that's a pretty standard concept that everyone can relate to or identify with, but it's worth remembering. Why is it worth remembering now? Because we're living in a threshold of positivity and negativity right now. We're right at the tipping point. Negativity meaning lower vibration and fear. Positivity meaning greater level of awareness, more love, higher frequency. And we are, as humanity, at the threshold, at the tipping point of either moving towards higher frequency or falling back to our old ways, fear-based existence. And it's interesting how it's shown to me because it's right on the edge. We're at a tipping point right now, which has never been shown to me this way before. Which means it could go either way from what I'm perceiving. Now, my sense is that as humanity, we will tip towards the positive or the higher vibration eventually. But there seems to be this pull towards that which we know, which is the denser, lower frequency that is more of the typical 3D. Now, this is not about good or bad. This is just about having a different experience. And like I mentioned, as a consciousness, as humanity, we are expanding. We're always expanding. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So we're like a little bit in this seesaw. We're teetering back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Why am I saying this? Because right now, you might be pulled towards something you already know because it is part of your experience and it's familiar, rather than embracing something new, even though it's scary because it's the unknown. And I suspect if you're watching this, I'm saying this to you because you are at this threshold right now. You are teetering between moving forward towards something that is unknown or staying with the familiar, with what has always been. And that is a choice. Now, some of you may not see it as a choice. Again, it's just a matter of perspective, which is based on your level of understanding. The higher understanding you have of yourself, the more you realize that there is always a choice. It may not be a choice the way you think choice should be, but it is a choice nonetheless, even if it's as small, which is not small at all, even if it's as simple, which is also not simple, as changing your view about something or your perception internally. And of course, you know the saying by Wayne Dyer, when you shift your perspective on whatever you're looking at begins to change. Something of that nature, or some version of that. Okay. So if you are desiring to tap into your infinite inner knowledge for the purpose of expressing yourself more fully, and you are not quite sure how to go about it, click on the link below and book a session with myself and my spiritual team, and we would be honored to help you on your journey. Thank you so much, and have a great day. So what is it what would benefit you to know right now at this point of your transition to higher awareness? And I pulled a whole bunch of different decks, cards from different decks, and it all kind of beautifully flows together. So I'm going to show you these cards, and then I'll give you my intuitive interpretation of it. First and foremost, we are all collectively and individually going through a massive growth period. Okay? Here's what it says. Accept the lesson. When things don't go our way, something more important to the growth of our soul is in the works. Okay? You might be experiencing a whole bunch of turmoil right now, as I've mentioned earlier. And this turmoil may be the result of some outside experiences, outside situation. And you may feel like this situation is too big for you to handle. However, always remember, if you are faced with something, however difficult it is, the mere fact that you are faced with it means that you can handle it. Now, you may not believe that. You may not feel it within yourself. You may not have the faith in yourself. That's okay, but it does not mean that you are not able to handle it. And out of this chaos and this turmoil comes a magnificent understanding or level of understanding. Whatever this is that you are experiencing, this chaos, this internal turmoil, is revealing something to you about yourself or the situation or another person or all of the above. And as you go through this conflict, through this turmoil, you will begin to notice different things happening to you or with you. Number one, you will begin to see things you have not seen or noticed before, which will give you a better and or higher understanding of you and your situation. And upon reflecting on this different view of you or the situation, you will begin to climb up, if you will, out of your current situation towards you being and or feeling being more free. So right now you might be stuck in a storm. Hopefully it's not an actual storm. It's a metaphor. And you may not be able to see your way out of it. But trust me when I tell you that soon something is going to be revealed to you. And I'm hearing this as a massive understanding. And this massive understanding is going to help you to leave this chaos behind, to walk away from it, to clear it. And that is the best way that I can evoke this message. It's just words coming to me and I'm just saying them out loud. Okay? I do not know what the situation is. For some of you, it will be tied to your finances, job losses, conflicts with other people, where you are faced with needing to take a new path, and you may feel like you may not have the resources to do so. Here's what I'm going to say to you. You already have the resources. These are internal resources. You have everything within you to step into this new path, or to move on to this new path. And it all boils down to, or stems from, the understanding you have about yourself and the world you live in. Okay? I don't know if you can see, but there's this tiny little person right here, and there's this massive cloud. And here is knowledge. Something is written on this, whatever this is. It's knowledge, information. And notice that this person is being lit up. Okay? You may actually feel like you're being lit up from inside out. Don't be surprised if some people will tell you that you are glowing. And I would love for you to share that in the comments if that is in fact what people will say to you. And just pay attention to that, okay? So you are going through a growth period. And like I said, accept the lesson. When things don't go our way, something more important to the growth of our soul is in the works, okay? You are stepping up the ladder, if you will, in terms of your own inner awareness, which will allow you to embody more of your authority. Okay, so perhaps you have given your authority away to other people. Perhaps other people have authority over you. Perhaps you have lost your way. Perhaps you have put your responsibilities onto others, and you're afraid to take charge of your life. And if that's the case, if you don't feel in charge of your life, life feels harder. Life is hard to begin with, but if you feel like life is happening to you, then it gets extra harder, okay? So growth. Next message is quiet. Now that's pretty self-explanatory. In order to extract the lessons or the understandings, or to draw the wisdom from your situation, we need to be able to take a break and be quiet and go within, contemplate, go inside, perhaps do some inner exploration. This is what it says. Turn off the noise. Silence nourishes the body, mind, and spirit. So as you are going through this chaos, internal, external, both, make sure you take time for yourself, by yourself, to connect with your own mind in order to understand and see what is going on inside of me. What is this situation trying to tell me about who I think I am, about what I think I am responsible for or not responsible for? What is it that is trying to be learned from this situation? Of course, the idea being that every situation, and I mean every situation, offers some level of learning. Not because we're dumb and we need to learn to be smarter, no. But because every situation offers something in terms of awareness. Awareness we didn't previously have. So use this time to go inside, to self-reflect. And don't avoid your own inner conflict, because remember, whatever chaos you are experiencing on the outside is relative to the inner chaos or inner conflict that is happening within you. That is not to say that you are causing what is happening, but it does say that your 3D vibrational experience, ouch, I'm just getting buzzing in my left ear, vibrationally speaking, is corresponding to your own vibration that is happening in your inner world. Okay? And what I'm getting is, for those of us who are wanting to experience more 5D existence, we have to be able to go within and to release ourselves from our internal prisons. Okay? And we can't do that if we are only focused on the outside. Okay? So quiet time, contemplation time, time with yourself is extremely important. Okay? So those are the first two messages. I believe most people can relate to that. If you are desiring to tap into your infinite inner knowledge for the purpose of expressing yourself more fully, and you are not quite sure how to go about it, click on the link below and book a session with myself and my spiritual team, and we would be honored to help you on your journey. Thank you so much, and have a great day. The next message is priorities. It's time to focus on our priorities, or our priorities are changing. What does it mean? What is a priority? Generally speaking, priority is something that we put a lot of effort, awareness, and attention to. Okay? And by doing so, there is a corresponding frequency. Okay? You'll notice this Ganesha is holding a lotus flower. Lotus flower is indicative of transformation, inner transformation. So what this is saying to us is that it is time to shift our priorities to our own inner transformation. I am being drawn to the orange, which is to me reflective of the sacral chakra. And there's also a lot of yellow. So our inner conflict often stems from our first three, or is connected to our first three chakras, which is our centers that are tied to our physicality. Okay, the higher up we go, then the heart, the throat, third eye, and the crown chakra is more connected to our spiritual aspect. The first three are connected more to our physical aspect. Okay. For some of you, this is a message that you are encouraged to make inner healing that is to do with your sacral and third or solar plexus chakra as your priority, okay? Which is healing the ego and healing the sacral chakra. So healing the feminine and healing the masculine aspect of you. Chances are, if you are listening to this, when it comes to your feminine or masculine energy, it's out of alignment. Okay? Chances are for many of you have squashed your feminine quality, feminine energy, energy, which will diminish or reduce the level of your expression, okay? Which will also, for some of you, affect your intimacy in negative ways. And for some of you, it has its roots in feeling inferior, okay? Of course, the solar plexus is about our power center. It's our ego. Perhaps your own ego is out of alignment with the true you. Your ego is out of alignment with your soul. And if your ego is out of alignment with your soul, then you might have difficulty establishing what your purpose is. You may be drawn in many different directions, not knowing where you're supposed to go. Okay, now I want to say something about the idea of supposed to. There is no supposed to in terms of somebody tells you you're supposed to do this, this, and that. When I say supposed to, is being guided by your own spirit. And your spirit is very much a part of you. You are a part of it. But you may be not in alignment with it, which will be disadvantageous to you. It will have a tendency to make you feel inferior. It will have a tendency to have you believe that you come from lack or that you are lacking something. It may diminish your level of perseverance. You will likely be someone who tends to give up on things, including yourself. And you will often find ways to diminish yourself, oftentimes without even knowing that you're doing so. Okay? The other thing I want to say is stop the procrastination. You might be procrastinating on something that you want to involve yourself in, but you can't bring yourself to do it or to participate with it. And if that's the case, then that's because you are at odds somehow. Okay? You are at inner conflict. And remember, you are in a space of tremendous growth. So be your own best friend. What does it mean? Well, think of the idea of being a friend, having a best friend. When you have a best friend, for those of you who are blessed with having a best friend, just think of it and the dynamic between you and your best friend. You trust him or her, you believe in him and her, you support in him and her, he or she supports you, you can rely on your best friend, you can feel safe with your best friend, all the qualities we want in a best friend. Someone that will always be there, someone that will not judge you for all the dumb shit that you do, but will gently hold up a mirror to you and say, hey, I love you, and because I love you, I want you to see something about yourself. Not because I'm judging you, but because I want you to feel better, or I would love for you to feel better, or whatever. So that's the idea of a best friend, and I'm sure there's many others. So the message is, be your best friend. Now, if you are like most people I know, you have a tendency to beat yourself up. You have a tendency to make yourself small. You have a tendency to make yourself minimized in front of other people. If that's the case, ask yourself the question, why do I feel the need to do that? Why do I cater to people who bring out the worst in me? Why do I hang around with people who disqualify me as a great human being? In other words, they don't treat you with respect, with love, and with care. And if you're hearing this, then chances are there's something in there for you to contemplate and think about, to look into. Are you someone who easily gives your power away? Examples of giving your power away. I mean, there's probably 1,000 examples, but I'll pick just few, or I'll ask for just few. One of the ways we give our power away is we believe somebody's word is more important than ours. That somebody is more valuable than we are. That we are somehow less than somebody else. These are just very few examples of how we give our power away. And it usually comes from a learned behavior, and it comes from how we identify with ourselves. So if how you identify with yourself is creating this inner conflict within you, is not allowing you to be your own authority, is causing you to give your authority away or to give your power away, then you might want to reflect and ask the question, why do I feel the need to do that? Now, for most people, it's an unconscious thing. It's something that has been there for so long, we do it without even knowing it. It's a nasty little habit, right? But habits always exist for a reason. There's always a reason why we have a habit, and it's a learned behavior. For many of you will experience challenges with your solar plexus right about now. And these challenges will often express themselves as issues in your digestion on a physical level, okay? Often issues with digestion are linked to suppressing our own power, holding ourselves back, not allowing ourselves to be fully present. Okay? And we do that usually unconsciously because we have our reasons for it. We're not enough. We're too little, we're too big, we're too ugly, we're too this, we're too that, we're not this, we're not that, we're not enough. Whatever stories or version of stories we are creating in our minds. Okay? So your priority right now is to look within yourself at the aspects of you that are at conflict or at resistance to one another. Okay? And just notice what that is. What are you at conflict with within yourself? What are you denying yourself of? What are you in resistance to within yourself? Because all those things are not aligned with self-acceptance or self-love. And remember, that's the ultimate goal, right? Is to recognize that we are part of all that is, and its highest expression is unconditional love, which means we are versions of that. So if you are not expressing, if you are not embodying it, we can't express it. And if we are not embodying it, then that means that there is something preventing us from embodying it. And generally, that something stands in the way of us seeing ourselves as whole. Okay? You don't need to do anything to be whole. You already are whole. I repeat, you don't need to do anything to be whole. You already are whole. There's nothing within you that is missing. So if you want to experience or embody more wholeness, what is required of you is the acceptance of it as fact right now. Now, there will be quite a few of you which will say, well, I'm not whole, I don't have this, I don't have that. Just because you're not experiencing something within you does not mean that you are not whole. It simply means you're not experiencing something within you because you are blocking yourself from it. So we have to find out, what is the block? What stands in the way of you experiencing wholeness? It is always the opposite, which is lack. You are holding into some lack perception of you, and many of them, that is not allowing you to experience and express and embody more of your wholeness, which you already are. Now, for some of you, that might be a very hard thing to grasp if you are looking strictly from a human 3D perspective. Okay? Now, remember, my job is always to help you reach higher awareness. Okay? So chakra number one and chakra number two, sacral chakra, the feminine aspect, and or chakra number three, solar plexus, your power center, your masculine aspect. For many of you, these areas are out of alignment. Okay? And if these areas are out of alignment, it will not help you be more in alignment with your higher self. Okay? And that's because if you are out of alignment in those areas, your tendency will be to focus or to create from a space of lack, which comes from conditioning and from understanding yourself from a different perspective. But remember, We are in times of tremendous growth. And this growth is all about how we see ourselves and our perspectives. Perhaps it's time for you to recognize yourself in a way you have not recognized yourself before. What does it mean to recognize yourself? To recognize yourself. What does it mean to recognize yourself? Please tell me. How do I say that? To recognize yourself means to see yourself fully. What does it mean to see yourself fully? To see yourself fully means to see yourself as the magnificent being that you are. Not just your human 3D perspective. Beyond that as well, because you are more than a human. You're more than a human. So to recognize yourself means to see all of you as magnificent. Now, in order to see all of you, including your shortcomings, perceived shortcomings, as magnificent, we have to be able to drop our judgments. The judgments we hold of ourselves and the judgments we hold of another. In other words, allowing yourself to see yourself as magnificent will allow you to see others as magnificent as well, rather than seeing others for their shortcomings. Now, imagine for 1 second your life and your creation of life. When you begin to see yourself as someone that is magnificent. Now, seeing yourself as someone that is magnificent does not mean that all of a sudden your challenges go away, that you don't have conflicts, that you don't have negative views. No, it just means that that's part of your magnificence. That's part of your creation. Why? For the purpose of understanding yourself from a different perspective. Because you are that powerful. You are so powerful. You are so powerful, you can make yourself to feel and be small. Or you can make yourself see yourself as small. You're that powerful. You have that much power. Again, the brain may have difficulty squeezing that in. Okay? If you are desiring to tap into your infinite inner knowledge for the purpose of expressing yourself more fully, and you are not quite sure how to go about it, click on the link below and book a session with myself and my spiritual team, and we would be honored to help you on your journey. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Another solar plexus. This is a time of embodying our power, empowerment, being in power, owning your power, and therefore expressing your power in beautiful ways. If you don't believe that you are not powerful, you will not express your life powerfully. In other words, you will not express your life to the fullness of your ability and your power and your expression and your potential. Empowerment simply means owning your power. You don't have to do anything to own your power. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to become anything. You don't have to sell your soul to become an powerful being. You already are. It's about recognizing that you are power and that you have power already. Perhaps you have learned how to give your power away, which is what we talked about at the very beginning. Yes, that's very real. I know exactly how to do that. I am an expert at that. Done it for many years. It was ingrained, instilled in me. But I wouldn't be able to effectively help you own your power if all I felt was ever powerful, because I wouldn't know how to learn how to own it for myself. I wouldn't know how to go, wait a minute, I am giving my power away. I don't want to do that anymore. And effectively bringing myself back to me rather than giving myself away. Okay. The question that comes is, what do you see as power? Because power in and of itself doesn't do anything. It's what you do with it. It's what you do with your power that creates different experiences. So if you are feeling powerless, it's not that you don't have power. It means you've learned to not yield your power in effective ways. Because if you feel powerless, that's you using your power to see yourself as powerless. Let that sink in. If you feel that you are powerless, or that you don't have power, or that you are not powerful, you are using your power in order to believe that you are not powerful. Now, I'm not talking about being in a position of some major corporation or a president of a country where you are in that kind of a power or authority. No, I'm talking about your inner power and your life. We talked about authority at the beginning. Owning your authority is owning your power. You are a powerful being, whether you realize it or not. And in order for you to realize more of your potential, you have to acknowledge that you are a powerful being. You may not feel it. You may not understand it. You may not know what to do with it, but you are a powerful being. For one, you are made up of energy. What is energy? Energy is power. So just by that example alone, you being an energetic being are power. Energy is source of power. Let that sink in. The more power you allow yourself to embody, the more free you will become. The more free you will feel, because chances are you are already free for most of you watching this. You are roaming freely in the world, but you may not feel free. Okay? The more you embody your power, the more you own your power, the more powerfully you will create your life, your experiences, and your goals. Okay? If you are someone that does not feel empowered, you will have a tendency toward negativity, or toward seeing yourself in negative ways, in negative light. Remember, seeing yourself from a negative perspective is not going to yield the results that you are looking for in terms of creation, your goals, your intentions. Okay? Medicine. This is a very interesting message, because there's two messages coming from this. One is that you would benefit from working with a healer, someone who has a lot of higher wisdom, higher knowledge, someone who's humble. Okay, that's interesting. And I actually understand that message. In my experience, the louder the person is about what they can do and their achievements, the more they are in their ego. Not that there's anything wrong with that, okay? It's an expression. On the other hand, one who is humble and just kind of more quiet about what they do and their achievements, in my experience, they usually tend to be more higher vibrating, okay? And if it was me, I would rather work with someone who is higher vibrating and less in their ego. Why? Because it tells me that they have done a lot of their own inner work and shadow work. So their judgments and their advices will not be clouded by their own ego. Okay. This is fairly common in spiritual world, and I don't mean this as a judgment, but it is something that I have noticed over many, many years. Many healers, in my experience, of course, do not take the time to bring out their own versions, their higher versions of themselves to the table. In other words, just because someone has gifts does not preclude them from doing their own inner work. And I have found in my experience that many healers don't do that. Okay, they I guess they believe that because they have gifts, because they can read others, because they can, see things other can't, then they don't have their own stuff to work on, and that is usually opposite. Usually the opposite is true. Okay, so I don't know who I'm saying this to. I'm saying this to somebody. Okay, so choose your healer wisely. Okay. The other message is connect with your own inner healer. Connect with your own inner medicine man or medicine woman. And if you're hearing this and message and you're getting chills and vibrations in your body, then I am speaking to your deeper truth, which is a part of you that already knows this. So this is a message for those of you who are doubting your own healing abilities. Okay? You will have signs, if you haven't already, that healing path or healing journey is your path. Perhaps this is the path that will be revealed to you as a result of this chaos or conflict. Okay. Perhaps as a result of loss of a job or some loss in your life, your own healer will emerge. And that can take on many forms, many expressions. And when your inner healer emerges, it will be like you are connecting to an ancient aspect of you that's always been there, but has been shut down, suppressed, or repressed. And for those of you who this rings true for, perhaps you already call yourself a healer, perhaps the idea of being a healer scares you. And that's because very likely you have wore the hat of a healer in other lives and you were discriminated against, and you feel that if you call yourself a healer an energy worker, or anything of that sort that has a slightly esoteric tone to it, you will be judged, you will be denied access to everyday joys or certain friends or whatever it may be. Perhaps you are fearful that if you acknowledge this aspect of you and you allow yourself to reveal it, you will end up being alone. So that scares you. Okay? If this resonates with you, chances are very high that this inner healer wants to emerge from within you, so you have to pay attention to your inner critic. What does your inner critic say about you being potentially being a healer or expressing yourself as a healer in whatever capacity? It doesn't have to be as a paid job, although it certainly could be, but the expression of being a healer. Okay. Last but not least, the message of self-sacrifice came up. And I'm actually going to read this because there's a very, very interesting write-up on this. The ancient vegan spirit was one of selflessness. Vegans were known to give their lives for others as a gesture of extreme love and compassion and in support a community. However, it could sometimes be taken too far, as when self-sacrifice hurts the self so much that the person cannot remain strong and healthy in order to continue to be of service. This is a deep karmic pattern that many people have. Examine your own patterns of self-sacrifice and learn what level is appropriate and when it becomes self-sabotage. Take care of yourself as you would a precious gift, and then you can give more to others. Oftentimes, self-sacrifice can be a noble act that furthers spiritual development, but sometimes it can be an act that reflects a lack of self-worth, whereby sacrifice becomes a way to atone for perceived failings. If this message appears, it is encouraging you to look at your relationship to sacrifice and self-worth. In what parts of your life do you sacrifice your deepest needs? Very, very important message. Okay? I'm just seeing if there is anything more that wants to come through. When we do things out of love for other people, it's all beautiful. But when we end up doing things out of guilt, out of fear, out of our own inner misalignment, we end up ultimately hurting ourselves in the process. Or when we give of ourselves because we believe that we are not whole, and as a result of us giving to others or sacrificing, we are hoping we're going to gain acceptance. That's very common. Majority of people who do that for those reasons are not conscious of it. And that's a deeply held limiting belief that drives their behavior. So look at your life, look at aspects of your life and ask yourself, notice, where in your life are you sacrificing your own well-being, your own inner wealth, emotional wealth, your own inner abundance, where are you giving your power away? And ask yourself this question. If I'm hurting myself in a process by sacrificing myself, why do I feel the need to hurt myself? What is the reason behind it? Why do I feel the need to sacrifice my well-being? What do I get in return for doing that to myself? And then see what you come up with. What is the answer? Oftentimes you will notice an answer will reveal itself, and with it will come a brand new understanding. And your new understanding can help you rewrite your inner story and effectively release yourself from your inner conflict. Because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is inner conflict, which almost always is rooted in lack perception. Okay? So that's what I have for you. And even though this is a general, I feel like most people will resonate, if not with majority of this message, then certainly with parts of it. Of course, if you would like me and my team, my spiritual team, to work with you and help you release yourself from your inner entrapments and your inner wars, your inner conflicts, we would be absolutely honored and delighted to do that. All you have to do is just click on the link below. Also, the weekly channeled messages newsletter went out yesterday or on Monday. If you did not get a copy, then look at your spam. Look for the email joannathehealer.com. There's also a link down below where you can click on it and see the issue that I just sent. There was some pretty cool channeled material that I sent. And if you would like to receive weekly channeled messages that are not available anywhere else on any of the social media platforms that I have, that come directly to your inbox, just sign up on my newsletter, for my newsletter, link below, or click on any of the links below and you will be automatically signed up to receive them in your email box. Okay? Thank you so much for being here. I wish you a wonderful week. I look forward to seeing you next week. Please do comment how these messages resonate with you, what helped you, what you began to see differently. And ultimately, as I said, my goal is to help you express more of your potential. And it is my greatest pleasure to do that for you. So thank you so much again. I look forward to seeing your comments and see you soon. Bye-bye. If you are desiring to tap into your infinite inner knowledge for the purpose of expressing yourself more fully, and you are not quite sure how to go about it, click on the link below and book a session with myself and my spiritual team, and we would be honored to help you on your journey. Thank you so much, and have a great day.